Probably kick this thing off, get this show on the road. Do you want to take it away? Or?
Yeah, sure. All right, guys. So let's dive in here. Welcome to Phase 3, our last webinar for Phase 3, actually. Strategic expansion. Really taking the business to the next level. That's kind of what we want to really talk about tonight, along with
And just to,
software update. Yep. Did you have something,
yeah,
Nate?
just to bring people up to speed. If you didn't watch the webinar we had last week, we gave you an introduction to Phase 3 last week, and we spoke about, what it was all about. And today is really complementary to a lot of the things that we spoke about last week. So if you weren't on last week, it would definitely be worth your time to actually go and check that replay out.
Absolutely. So tonight, we are going to give you, Aiden's going to talk about a CrowdForce and Bounce Breaker update. So continued improvements to our software suite for you guys. And again, we'll talk about this at the end, but even though this is our last webinar, believe me, you have not heard the last from us. And we have lots more stuff that we're going to be doing. And we're not on to the next new thing. We're not doing any big product launches or anything like that. I mean, this is, we're still doing this. So we'll talk about that at the end. But the big thing we want to talk about tonight is really getting help and building your business, scaling it. And really the key to doing that is to outsource. I mean, I think every single person will tell you that. Everybody who's built a business up to a certain size reaches kind of a ceiling. And in order to blast through that ceiling, there really is absolutely no other choice other than to get some help. And typically that's in the form of outsourcing or hiring people or some combination of those two things. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about how best to do that. All right. But first, Aiden, you want to take away and talk about the CrowdForce Limited Edition and the Bounce Breaker update?
Yeah, so maybe the easiest thing is if you just keep managing the slides
Yep.
for a second for me
I'll do
here.
it.
So CrowdForce, just to recap, we spoke about this last week, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. But in case you weren't on the call last week, or in case you haven't had a chance to check this out yet, we have released the new version of CrowdForce. It will automatically update or ask you to update it when you next turn it on. Okay, it still looks the same, but we've spent an enormous amount of time, money improving it, and basically rebuilt it from the ground up. So it's faster and it's more effective. Now, a couple of new highlights. We've got the Engage module, which gives you lightning fast and more refined Facebook analysis. So basically, what this allows you to do is to drill down and have a closer look at what your competitors are doing. So if you identify one of your competitors' Facebook pages, you can analyze it and pull out in a matter of seconds their best ever performing posts. So, I mean, hopefully it's quite obvious how you can use that. You can say, well, if this has been incredibly successful for another Facebook page, then it could be successful for your Facebook page as well. So that's a really cool way to find new content, exciting content, and proven content that you can use in any niche that you're in at all. We've also added some YouTube extra functionality in there where you can actually filter based on how many views videos have had. This is a filter that we haven't really had before. So if you want to jump to the next slide there, Steve.
Yep.
And we've got demos of how we actually did this last week, but here's a couple of screenshots for you. This first one shows Facebook Engage. Again, you just insert, you just fill in the details in those two big long rectangles which you can see on the screen there. The one on the left, that's where you put the Facebook page that you want to analyze. You put in some criteria, so you can say, look, I only want to see posts that have got over 500 likes and over 1,000 shares, for example. Okay, hit search and you're good to go. And if you jump to the next screen there, Steve, when you then go and look at the results, you can also filter based on, you can order them based on the likes they've got, the shares they've got, the comments they've got. You can view the different posts. You can have a look when the post was added. You can filter by different page. It is very, very cool. Has anyone actually started using this yet? If you have, and if you've had some experience, I'd love to hear about it. Just type it in the chat box, because this is something pretty exciting that we're using in a big, big way. And I saw someone mention a moment ago that they use it and they love it. And Rona says, use it loads, best tool ever. And a lot of other people are saying, yeah, it's an excellent tool. So that's great. If you want to jump to the next slide there, Steve.
Yeah.
And I think. Oh, so this is the this is the YouTube module, and this is where you can filter different opportunities in the YouTube module, and you can say, look, I only want to see videos that have got over 3 million views, for example. So again, it's a great way of finding the most effective, the most viral videos out there, essentially. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can actually pull those slides up here, Steve, because I did download them. I'm just seeing if I can open them here. Bear with me, it might be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I've got them open. I'm just pulling it up in a different format, and then I'll be able to take the screen.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second.
You didn't like the way I was changing slides?
Yeah, I did, but I just couldn't remember what I had coming. Like, I've got my own to do.
Yeah.
And I think we have a little bit of a delay, which doesn't help.
Yeah. No, I know.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and make myself the presenter.
Okay.
So guys, you should hopefully be able to see my screen now. If you can just let me know when that happens. Yep, great. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of some of the changes to CrowdForce. What you'll see over the coming months and even years is that this is something that we use in our business, and we keep on improving it. Okay, we keep on making different changes to it, and we keep on just constantly improving it. So expect to see more changes coming in the next few months as we add in new functionality. So it's a pretty cool tool. Obviously, you'll get all the updates that come out, and we'll notify you of them. The other thing that we wanted to mention here is Bounce Breaker. Now, Bounce Breaker, we gave a bit of an update in the last session. Since then, Attention Grabber is live. Okay, it's a very cool tool that you can use. So what we're going to do now, I do have the step-by-step details in these slides, and we also have made a video today, which is already in the members area, which is a demonstration. But what I want to do is just kind of go off the cuff, take you over to Bounce Breaker, let you have a look at it, and maybe take any questions that you may have. Okay, so Bounce Breaker, I'm in the Attention Grabber section, and let me just go back to the dashboard here. As you can see, this is launched, and this is launched, and Billboard is coming very, very soon. So if I just enter the Attention Grabber, and here is where I can select a domain if I've already got one in the system, or if I want to add a new one, I can put that in here. And this is all covered in a video, but I just want to show you very quickly how this all works. So what we've got here is we've got an example that I've set up, and this here is the example. So you can see this little pink thing that's sitting up here in the corner. That is the Attention Grabber. Okay, and it's really cool. It just follows me around the website, and I've got lots of different little designs and different things I can do with it. So if I come in and actually edit this, and if you've got any questions, feel free to type them in. This is how we can edit this. Okay, so there's two different types of attention grabbers. There's a dynamic design, which allows you to put anything that you want, and a static image, which are pre-made static images that we've already made for you. You can then say if you want it to be shown on the entire website or just on certain pages. So in this case, I said, look, I only want it on this one page, just to give you an example. And I'll actually change that right now. I'll say I want it to be shown globally. I want it to open in a new window. So you can choose this. Should it open in a new window or not? And down here, we've got all kinds of pre-configured images. So if I just click on some of these, to show them to you, you'll see that there's all kinds of, got a suggestion, click here to contact us, and that could go to your contact page. This one here is one that I used on my website for a long time. Follow me on Facebook for expert tips and advice. So let me just use that one now. So at the moment we've got a pink one here, but let me show you this. If I click submit, and if I refresh this, you'll see that this is going to change. Okay, and now it's a green one, and this will appear all throughout my website because I just said that I wanted it to display on the entire website. Okay, so you can see how it captures the attention. This could say anything that you wanted it to say. And if someone clicks on this, they get taken to my Facebook page. Okay, so you can see there that's how that works. But you could use this in a number of ways. You could have people click on it and have them join your email list. You could have them click on it to go and check out your most popular post. So if you've got a post on your website that is the best performing post, a post that makes you the most money, then you could say, have you checked out our top ranked post? Or if you've got a website about dogs or something, you could have something that says, you'll never believe what this dog did, click here to find out, and it takes them to that page on the website. As you can see, this is installed, it's activated, and if I just wanted to deactivate it, I could click that deactivation thing there. Another new thing that we've got is we've built a WordPress plugin. So instead of having to previously, you'd come in and you'd insert this code into your website, we've created a plugin for Bounce Breaker, which you can install, which will be pre-configured for your website. Okay, so then any change that you make inside Bounce Breaker will change it on your website. So let me show you one other thing on here, and I love this tool, by the way. It's worked incredibly well over the years. So let's say that you've had a look at these 20 different images that we've got here, and none of them really fit your needs. You might say, okay, I'm going to make a dynamic image. So you'll select that, and you'll come down here, and you can start putting whatever you want. So here you might say, follow me on Facebook, visit my page now. You could put any text you wanted in here, and you could change these colors. So you could say, you know what, I want the ribbon to be a pink, hit submit, and now what you'll see is this here is going to change when I refresh this page. And now you can see it says follow me on Facebook, visit my page now, and again it just scrolls around with the page. Now for me personally, this is just a personal thing, I much prefer the image option. I think it looks nicer, but this one here does give you the added benefit of being able to put absolutely anything you want on it. Okay, so this one could be more customized for your needs. The other thing that you can do, if you want it to look more like an image and you don't want to use a dynamic design, you could use a static image, but you could use your own image. So you could upload a custom image. You could select this one, put in the URL of an image that you might have, and whatever URL you put there is what will be shown in this top corner of the page. Okay, so I'll just hit submit again. Well, actually, I shouldn't hit submit because I'm not using a custom image. I'll just fix that. I'll deselect that, and I'll hit submit. And if I refresh this, then we should again see that I've got that nice little green one up there, which I like. If I wanted to deactivate that, I could just come here and click deactivate, and here you can see it doesn't say that it's active. You can see the statistics in real time, so 20 visits, 4 conversions, and if I just refresh this, you'll see it's not there anymore because I deactivated it. So the plugin dynamically kind of talks to this dashboard. Okay, so it's pretty cool. Hopefully you like it. Is there any immediate questions on that or any comments about that, Steve?
There's two things that I was answering most of the questions, but there's two that have come up. One is people are asking, well, can I only use this on 100K factory sites? And the answer.
No, you can use it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use it on any site
you can use it on any site.
As many as you want. That's our gift to you. So whatever you want to do with it is fine. The other question, Aiden, is this considered is the attention grabber considered a pop-up? When you're looking at terms of service for Facebook or AdWords or whatever.
No.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because this, unlike the pop-up suite, which you've already had access to, this is something, as far as I understand it anyway, and I've never had an issue with it, and I've had this, we've had this on our sites for a long, long time, the Attention Grab plugin, and we've never had any issues. Because it doesn't sort of pop up after someone has landed on the site, it's always there, it's permanent, it's kind of permanently appearing there, then it's fine, okay? So, hopefully that answers that question.
Yep.
Now, guys, before we move on, would you like me to? This one isn't released yet, but it is working. We're in the very final stages of actually, testing it and making sure it's ready for you guys. Would you like me to give you a sneak peek at what it can do? Just type yes in the chat box if you want us to go and give you a bit of a sneak peek behind the scenes to see how it all works. Because this billboard, I think, is probably, all 3 tools are incredibly valuable, but I think you're going to love billboard because it adds some extra functionality. So I actually need to log out of this for a second, and I'm going to pause showing my screen. So what screen can you see at the moment, Steve?
Just the Bounce Breaker login screen.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to pull up some other login details here. One moment, guys. Just logging in. And almost there.
I think everybody who's attending the webinar answered yes that they want to see.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Good. So, guys, you should be able to see my screen now. I'm logged inside Billboard. Is that right, Steve?
Yep.
Can you see?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm logged into Billboard, and if I come to the Extreme Rush, you'll see on the Extreme Rush that we've got this blue bar along the top, and it says, like us on Facebook, click here. Now, I could make that go anywhere that I wanted. I've got it coming to the Extreme Rush Facebook page, okay? But imagine how you could use this. Let me just show you. This is probably the most advanced of this, the Bounce Breaker suite is Billboard. But let me come in here and just show it to you. So inside Billboard, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger here. Inside Billboard, there's actually different things that you can do. Okay, so you could, for example, collect an email. And if I want to collect an email, you see how this now says join our mailing list to stay up to date with our upcoming events, put your email in and click subscribe. we can customize this as much as we want to. So I can customize that text there. Instead of saying subscribe, I can put join now. As you can see, it changes. This is a preview, by the way. This is not live at the moment. I could say I want names and email addresses, and that changes, or I could say just email addresses. I can select a list. So at the moment, we've got it configured to work with Aweber and MailChimp. So if you've got one of those, then you could get it to, connect with a list for you. Anyway, that's one of the different options. Another option, so one is collect email. Another one is the social option, where you say like us on Facebook and you connect it up with your Facebook account. Another one is the one that I had at the start, which is the click link one. So this says like us on Facebook, click here. But what if I said, what if I wanted to use it? Let's just see what we've got here. What if I said this page here was the #1 earning post on this website, skydiving world record 164 person formation, and I want to send more people there. I could, instead of saying like us on Facebook, click here, I could do something like this. Like, did you see this? Oh my God, did you see the skydiving world record? Click here to check it out, and then I could actually link it to this page here. So I could say I want to go to this page here. I won't have it opening in a new window. I'll keep it in the same window. I'll click Save and Publish, and I will refresh this, and hopefully, we'll just wait for it to load. Page loads. Oh my God, did you see the skydiving world record? Click here to check it out. Okay, and I click it and it takes me to that page, and I've got it, I think I've got it showing on all the pages on this website at the moment. I don't remember. Yeah, I do. So, and can you also see how it's got that cool little animation that appears? Let me show you how that works. So I just come in here and edit it. You're going to love playing around with this because you can make a change and you can see it in here. So I've only been showing you this first sort of option here at the moment. There's also an announcement, so if you didn't want to have someone actually clicking there, if you just wanted to have an announcement just saying welcome to the website, then you can do that as well. Anyway, this little paintbrush, if I click on that, it's got a few cool things. Firstly, we could choose that we want to give people the option to actually hide the bar, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And we could have it, if we wanted, we could say, you know what, we want to have it at the bottom of the page. So I'll click Save and Publish, and let me just refresh this. And that should, hopefully, look at that, it appeared at the bottom of the page, okay? And I can click this little arrow here, and it minimizes it. Obviously that arrow is really designed for the bar when it's at the top of the page, but that's fine. But do you see how awesome that is? And we're still only just scratching the surface. Because, check this out, and we're probably just about a week or so away from actually getting this to you. We can choose to animate the bar when it enters, you know how it kind of bounces, or we could choose not to do that. We'll put that back at the top of the page now. We could say, you know what, we want this to display after 10 seconds. Actually, let's say after 5 seconds. And instead of having it regular height, we want it to be bigger. Okay, and I'll click Save and Publish, and this is going to appear at the top this time, and it's going to be bigger, and it's not going to have the animation when it loads. Okay, so we'll click Refresh, and this is why we're still testing it. There we go. It actually did work, but it just took a couple of extra seconds. I'm not sure why.
You put in that 5-second delay.
Oh, 5-second delay. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, That's right. I'm glad you're there, Steve, because I just assumed that I did something wrong. But yeah, 5 second delay, which is why it it wasn't there immediately. Now, if you were using this on your 100K factory sites, you wouldn't want to have that delay. And the reason you wouldn't want to have a delay is because that would be considered a bit like a pop-up. So you'd want to have it, you'd want to have it appearing there immediately. I like the animate because it makes it it grabs people's attention. And just again, we're just scratching the surface of what you can actually do with this. But if I click on this, I can change all the colors. So we've got different. Our developers are absolute geniuses. I'm not sure how they do this, but instead of just saying, okay, well, you can use this thing here to change the color, they've given us 3 different ways to change the colors. They've given us sliders where we can, do something like this. They've given us pre-designed swatches where we could just select, and they've given us this one here as well. So maybe at the moment we think, you know what, that blue, it just blends in too much. We want it to jump out. So let's make it pink, like the subscribe button. I could just come down here. I could choose whatever color I want. Let's say pink, like that. And then we could say, you know what, that green and pink don't really match. Let's, I don't know, let's try something else. And we hit save and publish. And I'll just refresh this. And I think we've still got the 5-second delay on there. Actually, we don't. So anyway, you can see how this works, and hopefully you like what you see. It's been a long time in the making, getting it to where it is right now, but we're pretty proud of it, and we've probably got about another week before it's going to be released, and we've got big plans for Bounce Breaker as well. This is the 3rd tool, so the pop-up suite, the attention grabber, and billboard, but we've got about another 3 or 4 tools already which are being worked on. So I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag on those ones just yet. I just want you to know that it's coming, and it's very, very cool. Okay. So again, collecting emails, getting more likes on your Facebook page, taking people to your most lucrative posts, that's probably the one that I would start using, or just a plain announcement, and the announcement could just be anything. Could just be, hey, welcome to this site. It could be anything. Anyway, I'm going to go back into Billboard here, and I'm just going to turn that off. So, 1 second. So let me just come here, and I can say deactivate. And you can see that in the short time that we had that up, 84 visits and 5 conversions, okay? And I've just deactivated that, so hopefully, yeah, we don't see it anymore. So, can we get some feedback about that? If you guys could just type in the chat box what you think about that. Do you like the look of it?
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great for lead capture as well. You may have noticed in the past that we've had something like that on this website on aidenbooth.com, and it's a great way to capture leads. I mean, you can get about 5% of your visitors actually opting in. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a great way to capture leads, and that is, as you can see, it's almost done. We just like to thoroughly test these things before we sort of release them, so maybe 1 more week there. So anyway, there is a video in the members area which we released today. So we actually, for the last few days now, the attention grabber has been available, but we just put a video in here showing you how to use it today. So that's got all the how-to information, and then in these slides, won't go through it in detail, but it's a simple 6-step process to actually using this. And by the way, in case you weren't on the call last week, users of Bounce Breaker have had over 200,000 pop-up opens and over 30,000 conversions. That's just with the pop-up suite. there are other there's no tools that do all these kind of things that Bounce Breaker does that I'm aware of, but there are tools out there where you can get that will just do pop-ups. And some of these tools cost hundreds of dollars. Others have got like a $47 per month membership and ongoing subscription. So anyway, hopefully you can see the value here. It's a simple process. I'm not going to go through it because it's all in that video, but it's a simple process to setting this up. And yeah, it's pretty cool. We've got more updates coming for you very, very, very soon about that. So, Steve, that was basically what I wanted to cover there. I don't know if you've got anything else that you.
No, I think that looks fantastic. I'm very, very pleased with the kind of the maturity that our programmers are showing. They seem to, over the years they seem to develop software better and better, and it looks more and more professional. And I'm just really thrilled with how that looks. It looks fantastic. It's hard to imagine any better. So.
Yeah, me too. I've been spending a lot of time actually playing with it, so
yeah,
it can be quite addictive as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll pass over the slides back to you now, maybe.
Yeah. You can do it, or I can.
Do you want to take them?
Yeah, I'll do it. Let me. So let's see. Change presenter. That would be me. Make me the presenter. Show my screen. All right. So if you could just let me know that you could see this slide saying outsourcing why. Everybody see that?
I can see it.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, let's dive into outsourcing, guys. First, it probably would be worthwhile to just talk a little bit about why we would want to outsource to begin with. At the end of the day, there are truly limits to what you can do on your own. I mean, first of all, let's assume for the moment that you're capable of doing absolutely anything and everything, which nobody is. But let's assume for the moment that you are. Even then, you don't have the time, right, to be able to scale. I mean, you just don't have the time to do everything. And even if you had the time to do everything, let's examine our previous stipulation there. You don't have the capabilities to do everything because nobody does, right? So it's obvious that if you really, really want to grow your business, if you really want to build something that's even more stable and even bigger, you're going to have to get some help. And that help has to take the form of, outsourcers or employees or partners. But, the easiest thing to get help with at first is clearly outsourcing, which is why, we're suggesting that you start with that. I can tell you that there's no way I would ever have been able to, build our business into what it is today by myself. I mean, it's just impossible, absolutely impossible. So you got to get help because you have these limits on scale and what you can do and your capabilities. You really should be spending more time on strategic things. And Aiden and I go through this process all the time. We start to get involved in, working on every little thing and minor things and unimportant things that take up time, and you get distracted by them. And then you think to yourself, I'm really not adding value here. I'm not doing this is not something strategic. This is not something where I have to make a decision that's going to impact the direction of my business. It's not going to impact where I'm investing my time and capital and things like that. It's more just get this task done because it has to be done in order for us to make progress. But if it's not a knowledge worker job, if it's not a strategic thing, it's probably not something that you should be doing, and you need more time to spend on those things. Quality of life. I mean, none of us. I mean, this is something we joke about. We don't joke about it. We talk about it for real. It's like, what? We want to continue to figure out ways that we can work less. Or it's not even about working less. It's more about just working on the things that we want to work on that are fun for us, that we enjoy, right? Because if you're doing that, then it's not even, it doesn't feel like work. If you're working on something that you really enjoy, it never feels like work. I can never remember that old quote, but you guys know what I'm talking about. How the hell do I get rid of those things? I hate when they pop up like that. I never know. Beats me. That's not how. Sorry. So quality of life is a big thing. And as I said before, it's really the key to building not only just a larger business, but a more stable one. Because the more help you get, the bigger your base, the bigger your foundation. And it just makes a big difference. And at the end of the day, what you'll also discover is that almost no matter where you are at your business, you go through a roller coaster of where you're not the bottleneck, you are the bottleneck, you're not the bottleneck, you are the bottleneck. But ultimately, if you're growing your business, you're often the bottleneck, you yourself. And again, this is something that Aiden and I find that happens often, where we just have to say, you know what, we got to get out of the way. We're the ones that are slowing things down. Let's get some help in here and let's let them run with it and get out of their way. Okay. Every time we've done that, every time we've realized that we're the problem and that we're the bottleneck and that we need a little bit of help to just take it and run with it, good things have happened. All right. So I think you'll find that that's the case. One thing that I see that people have trouble with considering outsourcing is that they really don't. They have this problem of imagining being big. I think a lot of people have a hurdle to get over just to become an entrepreneur. There's a lot of people that don't think like that. I mean, my family. I talked to my father, and he's a company guy. He's been retired for decades now, but he worked for the same company for 35 years and, collects a pension. He was a company man and salary guy, and never would have ever considered the prospect of becoming an entrepreneur. It just would seem crazy, and something that was not to be done and something that was not an option. But probably the majority of you guys have already gotten over that hurdle. Okay. Because you're here, you're talking to us. So that's one hurdle to get over. But then I see people hit another one, which is they can't imagine big. They can imagine being an entrepreneur. They become an entrepreneur. Maybe they make $100,000 a year. They make enough to make a living to support their family, a good living. But they don't think that making $5 million a year or whatever the number is a possibility. It just doesn't seem like an option to them, right? They just can't think big. And so consequently, they don't think about getting the right help to become that big. If you're always thinking that you're a $100,000 a year profit business and you're a one-man shop, then that's what you're going to be. But, if it's possible, if you can get over that hurdle that you're going to be 5 million, you're going to be 10, whatever it is, then you can imagine the scale. You can take the limited risk, really, of getting help, getting outsourcers, getting people to start to build your business with you, for you, right? But there are some people that really have a hard time with this. And I really would encourage you, if you take nothing else from what we talk about tonight, is I really strongly encourage you to think, is that holding me back? Again, pat yourself on the back because you probably got over one of the big hurdles that a lot of people face, which is just, I don't even imagine that entrepreneurship is even an option. So you're probably over that one, but you may not be over this other one. And it's really important. Okay. So we've convinced you that, we ought to be outsourcing the whys, but let's talk about what we should outsource. The obvious candidate for outsourcing are simple, quote unquote simple, repetitive tasks. You've got to get rid of those immediately. If you've got these simple repetitive tasks that are weighing you down 20% of your day, these are things that are really easy to outsource, and you can immediately have a return on your investment. I'll give you a good example. When years and years ago, when we launched our first information product about affiliate marketing, Commission Blueprint, was a two-man show back then, and we had a great model. We had great training. We built a lot of businesses. We made a lot of people a lot of money. However, back then it was Tim and myself, and we answered every single support email about I didn't get my password, I didn't get my download. I'm not talking about like how do you work the system. I'm talking about my payment didn't go through, I can't log in, stuff like that, right? And we would even stagger, because Tim was in London, we would stagger it so that I would work, during the day, my day, and he would work during his day, and we'd almost have 24-hour coverage, and we'd work 7 days a week. But as you can imagine, that took up a lot of time, and it's a pretty simple, repetitive task. I'm having a problem making my payment. Well, that's pretty straightforward to deal with ClickBank at the time and all that kind of stuff. Or I didn't get my password. Well, that's pretty easy to deal with. Or I don't know where to log in and get my stuff. Well, that's pretty easy to deal with. These are simple, repetitive tasks that maybe took up 20% of our time. The minute, right, we outsource that to someone who is more than capable of doing it, we all of a sudden freed up this time to help more people with the strategic things, help more people understand the system, help more people understand the tools and the training, and help more people build their businesses. It was a huge, very, very simple thing. So those simple, repetitive tasks, immediately get those. Then you can move on to the more complex tasks. However, I would say that instead of looking for things to outsource, you should probably instead be trying to look for reasons to keep something that you do it. And start with, why not outsource this rather than why outsource it? Because the more you can outsource, and of course there's a limit to this, and you have to do it effectively. You have to do it correctly, and hopefully we'll have some tips here to help you do that. But the more you outsource effectively, the bottom line is the more that your business will grow. I mean, absolutely and without a doubt. Okay. So at the end of the day, this slide is a long way of saying, as far as sort of what should you outsource? Well, darn near everything that darn near everything. I was going to say everything that you can, but I would strongly encourage you to only keep those things that you, after huge amounts of deliberation, you decide you can't possibly outsource. Because you'll find more often than not, you can outsource almost everything. Right? So if we're going to outsource all this stuff, and we think it's a good idea, and we know why we're doing it, how are we going to outsource? So this is, I think, the effective steps for outsourcing. You've got to spend some time initially and build up. You can call these whatever you want, your training materials, your documentation. I would just call them SOPs, standard operating procedures. You've got to spend some time.
And just to jump in there real quickly, we gave an example last week of an SOP that we use in our business. We gave you a link, not last week, in the last session, which was just 2 weeks ago. But we gave a link in the PowerPoint of one of our SOPs about how to set up a webinar. So Steve and I don't actually have to log in to go to a webinar to set up a webinar. We can have any of our team do it because we've got a standard operating procedure that does that. So if you didn't get that last week, and if you want to see a real example of one of ours, which we just got hosted on Google Drive, then check out the slides from the last session, because we got a link to one of them in there. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, it's critical to do that, because then, as Aidan said, you really don't have to worry. People understand what they're doing when they take on a task. And the worst thing in the world you can do is say to someone, well, yeah, I'm going to outsource this, and here, go set up my GoToWebinar. Go set up a webinar. But you haven't given them information on how to do it, on how you want it done. That's just a recipe for disaster, right? It's not going to get set up. It's obviously not going to get it set up the way you want it to do. You want it set up, you're going to end up having to redo it. It's going to take more of your time, right? So you've got to have all your SOPs set up. You've got to have some sort of tracking tools. Now, everybody's going to roll their own here and decide how closely they want to monitor, how they really want to manage their outsourcers. And I'll give you a few tips and tricks on that. Obviously, you're going to need to build a team. You're going to need people. You're going to need these outsourcers, right? You're going to need to train them and give them some sort of orientation about your business and what you're trying to accomplish. You're going to need to manage the team, and you're going to need to constantly scale or adjust the team. Okay. So when you're thinking about how you're going to attack outsourcing, I want you to think in terms of these 6 points or 6 steps. Okay. So we'll dive into each of those in a little bit more detail. So building up your SOPs, really straightforward. We don't really mean much by this except break down all the duties into these tasks. Break them down as low as you can, so that you can document them with as much detail as you possibly can. The more detail that you document, the better your overall experience with outsourcing will be. Okay. Now, keep in mind, when we get to training and things, you can, if you have outsourcers, you can get outsourcers to build your SOPs for you. Okay. So you can do sort of a train the trainers type thing, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it's really, really important that you have some kind of documentation about the tasks that you want other people to complete for you, and the parameters and all the information that they need in order to do the job effectively. So you want to break down everything into tasks, document those. You also want to give them some idea of the expected timeframes to complete them. That's really, really important when you're dealing, especially with offshore, because it gives them some feeling like, okay, if the person who's giving me this job thinks it should take 10 minutes and it's taking me an hour, there's probably something wrong here. I better ask some questions. And, I think it's really important to couch it in those terms, that the reason that you're giving people some expectations about timeframes is simply just to make sure that you're all on the same page with how they're doing the work and what exactly they're doing and what level of granularity they're doing and all that kind of stuff. So it's just another check and balance. And the key to positive experiences with outsourcing is all about this managing of expectations, making sure they understand what they're doing, making sure you understand, what their understanding is, and making sure that you're both understanding what the expectations are. Examples are really good. These can be documents, spreadsheets. It really doesn't matter, right? You could even use your training videos as SOPs, because SOPs are almost training by nature. But it doesn't really matter what form it takes, but you've got to be sure that you have something documented that you can fall back on, or that your outsourcer can fall back on, particularly when they can't reach you or something like that. Okay. It'll just save time, heartache, headache, and really will allow you guys to effectively communicate. Tracking tools, there's all sorts of different ways, and I would say we don't even have a favorite, honestly. And in fact, different parts of our company do this differently. And but it's some combination usually of some of these things. There are some online collaboration tools like Basecamp and Teamwork and Active Collab. There are just repositories for documents, like shared spreadsheets like Google Docs and Google Apps. And then there are the more, I would say, big brother applications like Clocking It and Time Doctor. And there's some really cool stuff with that. I'd say that Time Doctor, and I encourage you guys to go out and look at these, okay? Time Doctor and Clocking It. I would say that the usage of Time Doctor and Clocking It is a lot more interesting when you have a lot of repetitive tasks that need to be done on the computer. And it's not necessarily applicable to most of us, but it is a very effective way to manage outsourcers. Essentially what it does is it monitors all the tasks that they're doing. It periodically takes screenshots of their computer and all that kind of stuff. So it really keeps everybody honest. So that's kind of the upside. The downside is it's a little bit big brother, and so you may or may not want to get involved in that. However, there's all sorts of different levels of usage on those products, so I encourage you to take a look at them. The simplest thing to do, though, really, is to just use Google Docs and put all your SOPs in Google Docs and have a spreadsheet that sort of outlines, look, here's all the stuff that I've given you and the duties that I've delegated to you that I want you to get done, and here's a due date. And you can do all of that just on Google Docs. And I would suggest that that's probably the easiest way to start. Okay. And all these other things you can look into when you have time, because those are part of the strategic business decisions that you'll make about getting more out of the resources that you're bringing into the company. Okay. So that's the easiest thing to use. I think it's super, it depends on how your business is growing. Sometimes you need 5 people right away and you don't have the luxury of getting like a more senior person. But I think there's a lot of value in really spending the time and getting one person who will be your, kind of go-to person. Okay. And because this person can almost be your assistant, if you get the right person, and they can do the most training with you. They'll have the most seniority. They can become the writer of your SOPs. They can become the trainer of your new outsourcers. It's pretty straightforward to go find people. I mean, obviously you need to know what skill sets you're looking for, and you need to sit down and figure that out. And for the tasks that you imagine at first outsourcing, here's the bucket of tasks, here's the bucket of responsibilities that I'm going to outsource. You document those. And in order to accomplish those, I need someone with these skill sets. Okay, so they need to be English speaking, they need to know a little bit about web design, they need to be proficient with Google Docs and specifically Excel. So you document all that. And then you can go to any of these places: Upwork, Fiverr, Elance, Odesk. A lot of these are for one-off kinds of people, right? However, you can find people that can become, won't call them full-time employees, but they can become go-to people. They can become people that work for you 20 hours a month or something like that, okay? Or you can go to something like Agents of Value, okay, as a firm that we've used in the past, or Your Man in India, okay, which I think was the one that was originally mentioned in Tim Ferriss's book all those years ago, or Pragmites. Pragmites is a company that we used to do a lot of business with. In fact, we used to be pretty much their only customer for years in India. So it's a little plug from the past. It's run by a gentleman that we know well, Gaurav, who's a really good stand-up guy. And we don't have any business relationship with Pragmites anymore, but I know they have quality people. And these are where you can essentially, they're an agency where you can basically get full-time employees, outsource employees. And there's lots of these places online. We've done business with Agents of Value and Pragmites over the years. And so for X amount of dollars, you can have a full-time employee in the Philippines or in India. Agents of Value is in the Philippines, and Pragmites is in India. Okay, and obviously Your Man in India, who we've not used, is big surprise in India. All right, so you got a couple different ways you can do this. There is no right or wrong. Essentially, you want to find someone that you click with, and there's pretty limited risk here because you're not signing up to, hire them for 20 years or anything like that. You can sort of feel each other out and make sure that it's a good fit, and you can often get some pretty decent values. You can get full-time employees. We haven't done it in a long time, but Agents of Value, we were able to get full-time employees for $600-700 a month, which is pretty good, pretty fantastic actually, and very, very well educated, and English speaking and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so you essentially have an unlimited labor pool that you can go out and build your team from, with. And you can adjust it on the fly, which is the great thing about outsourcing, as opposed to, say, having employees. Training is absolutely key. Videos are, I think, the best thing to train outsource employees on, particularly offshore folks. A lot of them, obviously, if English is a second language, sometimes the written word is, loses something in translation or whatever. And so videos are fantastic because it visually shows people. Now you follow it up with a SOP that's written down, but a visual learning experience is very, very effective. Live Skype sessions, make sure you record them so that you can not have to repeat yourself, not have to repeat the training when you have to bring someone new on. Training the trainer is huge. Just like you can outsource your outsourcing, okay, which we've done, so that you don't have to write new SOPs and you don't have to do training of new people that come on. You outsource that, and that is an effective thing to outsource. Absolutely. You want the most important thing when you're training and setting up SOPs is expectation management. This is what you're going to do. This is how we're going to measure your success. This is how long I think it will take you. And this is how we're going to communicate and report. Okay? In the training and the SOPs, you must be able to answer those questions or provide the answers to those questions to the outsourcer. If you cannot, you're going to have a bad experience, both of you, because you're going to think they're doing something that they're not, or they're going to take 20 hours and you think it should take 5 minutes. All right? So this is what you're going to do, outsourcer. This is how we're both going to see whether you did it correctly, how we're going to measure success. This is how long. Now, I'm not going to give you, it doesn't have to be 37 seconds and whatever, but this is in general how long I think it'll take. And this is how we're going to communicate and report back to each other. Okay. Running the team. The most important advice I can give you guys. Now, there's a book out there, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who are from corporate or have been managers or whatever know this book. It's ridiculously famous. It's been famous for decades. It's called The 1 Minute Manager. And it's a fun little read. It's almost like a pamphlet more than a book. And it is admittedly about employees and not outsourced, labor. However, the principles still apply. And it is a short investment in time. And if you honestly are for the first time ever going to be managing people, you really should invest. It's not as easy as you might think. I think management gets a little bit of a bad rap. It's what I did for most of my corporate career, and I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of people. There is an art to management, and that is what outsourcing is essentially managing human resources to get things done. And this book, I think, is the key to managing people. So just read it. And again, I think this would be, if you take nothing else away from this webinar, read The 1 Minute Manager. But you essentially want to give your people the tools. You want to get out of their way, and that's delegating effectively. Okay. You want to meet regularly to review things. You want to give constructive feedback, and then you want to let things settle and simmer a little bit. And again, the whole thing about getting out of their way and making sure they have the tools and making sure they understand the requirements and that everybody's expectations are managed. Okay? They know what's expected of them, and you know that they know what's expected and how long it's going to take and how this is going to be measured. It's absolutely key, and it's what the 1 Minute Manager will help you with. And if you can do that, if you can learn those skills, and it's not hard, if you can learn those skills, you'll have a positive outsourcing experience, and it will do all the things that we talked about as far as growing your business. If you don't, and you think it's just kind of like what could be the big deal, you just kind of boss people around, it's not going to be a good experience because you're going to end up spending more time, which happens more than you think. You're going to spend more time than if you did it yourself. Okay. And then obviously, you want to just keep your finger on the pulse, adjusting the team as necessary. Unfortunately, that sometimes means hiring and firing. Never a pleasant experience, honestly. But it's, part of hunting with the big dogs. You got to deal with that, and that's dealing with people. And if you want to grow your business, it's going to be through human resources eventually, and you're going to have to deal with this kind of stuff. I ask what your outsourcers need. Once you get a couple, three, they might tell you, look, we really need another one of these kind of guys, to really get things done. And usually they know. So ask for their opinions. Okay. I had to have a cat picture. So, once we get rid of all these tasks, once we outsource everything, what the hell should you be doing? Well, you ought to be managing and managing and directing, and they're two different things. And management is defined. If you look up the term management, it is defined as getting work done through others, and it's utilizing human resources, people, to get way more done than you could ever get done yourself. So your time should be spent managing, doing that, but it should also be spent directing. And directing is different. Directing is making strategic decisions about your business. Yes, we are going to expand into another white label product. We are going to do 4 affiliate marketing projects this quarter. We are going to do 3 more 100K websites. We're going to invest in an information product. All those kinds of things. Networking, talking to us, talking to other people, joining groups, joining mastermind groups, getting ideas from other people. This is valuable stuff. I mean, we free up time. So, Aiden will go to a conference in Liverpool. He was just in a conference in Liverpool a couple of weeks ago. And you never know who you're going to talk to or who you're going to meet or what idea you're going to get back. But almost always when we do these kinds of things and we have time to do that, we find an interesting new idea, or it gets us thinking about something. And discretionary time for thinking is huge, huge. I would say some of our best ideas, come from Aiden and I just sitting around going, you know what, we better spend some time together and just kick a few ideas around. And, that's when some of our best ideas ever have come up. But if you don't have that discretionary time, you're going to agree.
Making the time as well to go and do that. So in our case, we obviously live, similar time zone, but about 10, 12 hours flying away from each other. So quite often it's saying, okay, yeah, it's worth it to come up, or for Steve to come down to Buenos Aires, which he did not long ago.
Yep.
It's worth it to take a few days out to actually do something like that.
Yep.
Totally worth it. And it's worth the money involved as well, even if it's going to cost thousands of dollars, in our case, to get from one place to the other. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, in fact, and sometimes you get these outcomes that you didn't even expect. Like a great example is the last trip I made to Buenos Aires. So I went down there to brainstorm a particular new business with Aiden and a potential partner of ours who we've known for years and years, who we partner with on other things, Matt Carter, who some of you may know. And we spent a couple days just locked in a conference room together in Buenos Aires. And we came out of there with a whole different idea that we're currently working on and staffing and capitalizing and investing in. And I honestly think that it is a $100 million idea. I mean, I think it's the first $100 million idea that I think that I've ever been involved in. And we never, ever, now I'm hoping it turns out that way. We don't know yet, but we never would have come up with it if we hadn't have set aside some discretionary time to get together in person and think and talk. So it's critical. Well, we'll tell you 2 years from now if it became a $100 million idea.
You'll know about it.
Yeah, you will know about it, I'm sure. Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with internet marketing niche, but no. Now. The other thing is, I took a few slides from Gaurav from Pragmites, who I've mentioned. Actually came in, I think it's about 4 or 5 years ago. We had a live event.
It was 2011.
Was it? Okay. So 2011, Gaurav came and gave a little talk about outsourcing from his perspective because he runs an outsourcing company in India. And there were just a couple things about culture and some suggestions from him that I thought were really worthwhile, and I just grabbed them. Culture is the way that you think, act, and interact. and it's different in everybody's country. But it's just interesting. The culture, like in America, we might say, look, I want to give you a heads up. And the perception is that, oh, the customer is very happy with our work. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And, we might say, when you get a moment, please reply to my email. And what they might hear in India is, well, he's not in a hurry. I'll just get back to him whenever. And so it's not that these are very specific examples that you have to always be on the lookout for, but it's in general, be on the lookout for ambiguity between what you're saying and what they're perceiving you meant. And if you really think about it, it all comes back to that same thing that I just talked about, which is managing expectations. That is the key thing that you should always be thinking about. Here's what I want you to do. Here's how you're to do it. Here's how we're going to measure how successful you are. And here's how long I think it's going to take. And you've got to be able to get that across. And there can't be this miscommunication about, I'm saying one thing and they're thinking another. Okay. It's absolutely critical. And he thought the same thing, SOPs and processes, and regular and methodical reporting. And again, I just took a few of these things. And these were some things that he wanted, that he said, would be really helpful. Know what you want, what you don't want. Another way of saying, what I was talking about with managing expectations. Be appreciative. I think that's really important. Common courtesy goes a long way in every culture. Realistic expectations. That is really important. Don't say that you think something's going to take 10 minutes. And it's really a 5-hour job. I mean, come on. Another good piece of advice: trust your vendor until you have good reason not to. Trust your outsourcer until you have good reason not to. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Always pay them. That's good. Be a quick responder. This is key. You're the bottleneck if they're sitting there waiting for you to tell them something or waiting for you to answer a question. Okay. Answer their questions clearly and completely. Gaurav wants everybody to be nice. Support your vendor's business. So, I think these are things to remember, and I thought they were worthwhile putting them in here. What about hiring instead of, outsourcing? I mean, obviously these accomplish the same thing, really, right? Which is to bring in human resources to get more work done. So you can do that by outsourcing, on one-off jobs, by outsourcing employees, right? Sort of full-time people, or by actually hiring employees, which is different by country to country. And in the U.S., we call that W-2. There are usually two types of employees in the United States, and something that you can consider. You can pay people as contractors, and this is super helpful if they are outside of the U.S. also. So typically, the way we do this for our people that we call employees, if you're outside of the United States and you're an employee of ours, then we consider you a contractor, okay? And so we don't withhold taxes or anything like that. But if you're inside the U.S., and we have a few inside the U.S. employees as well, then you are an official employee of our company. And again, in the United States, that's a W-2 employee, and we do the taxes and all that kind of stuff, okay? And the withholding and everything. And if you're going to do W-2 employees, which you might have to do at some point, my biggest advice to you is to just get a payroll service to do payroll. Payroll is a pain in the ass, okay? So because there's so many tax calculations and things like that. So just get a service, be done with it, never touch it again. In fact, you're outsourcing it, okay? So I would never try and mess with payroll. It's a pain in the neck. Why would you want employees? If you need, for whatever reason, I'll call them first world people. If you want to get somebody from the United States, somebody from the UK, somebody from Australia, whatever, you may need to make them employees to attract them. Because people want to be W-2s. They want somebody else to worry about the taxes and all that kind of stuff. Some people. Some people, employees create sometimes a little bit more stability. Sometimes, they're here in the U.S. and in this example. Maybe they have a little bit more ownership or buy-in if they're actually employees of the company. Okay, so those are things to consider. I wouldn't jump into employees right away, but these are things to definitely consider. You can manage these people the same way, though. you know, SOPs, tools, training, how to review. You know, there really isn't any difference in how you manage people. It's all about those same things that we talked about: managing expectations, making sure they understand what they need to do, how to do it, when they're going to do it. If you have employees, you do have to start to think about HR, human resource policies. You don't have to get too crazy. You know, you don't have to run a sexual harassment seminar or anything, but you probably have to think about at least paid leave, holidays, hours, work hours, and overtime. Okay, now this is the bare minimum, and this is probably the sum total of policies that we have. So we have identified that everybody gets X amount of paid leave based on their seniority, which is sick time and vacation time, however you want to use it. We have 6 holidays in our company for the year. We base them off the U.S. holiday calendar. We essentially have very flexible work hours and no overtime for salary employees. Okay. And when you have employees, you typically, although you could do this with outsourcers too, you have a lot more flexibility with compensation. You can bring people on. If you don't want to bring on a partner, which is another way you can get more resources, you can bring on a person who you pay maybe a little bit less than they are worth, but say, look, if you want to build this company with me, I'll give you some profit sharing. And you can come up with any kinds of combination that you want as long as you document it and write it down. So, I encourage you to think about these things. I don't think you should get involved with them until you are, pretty far down the road. I would much prefer to see you get involved with more traditional outsourcing first, because there's much less risk involved. There's a lot of legal issues with once you have an employee, how to fire an employee, and all that kind of stuff. With outsourcers, you can wake up tomorrow and decide that you don't want to see them again. Okay? So it's kind of like having a girlfriend versus a wife. Sort of. Maybe that was not a good analogy. But you may run into a situation where you really need to consider employees. Okay, so guys, that's my talk on outsourcing. Again, I think it's a no-brainer as to why, right? I hope everybody got that. It's if you want to grow a big business, you're going to have to do this. Okay, and watch out for kind of having that thing stuck in your head that you can't think big. Watch out for that, because that's a real thing and it's pretty serious. And as far as what to outsource, everything you possibly can, everything you can think of. In fact, always be thinking about, why wouldn't I outsource this? Okay, so that you can focus on those strategic things and do more directing and managing. Okay, the how, hopefully you understand those sort of 6 steps. Yeah, you got one?
So yeah, sorry, we've got a little bit of delay whenever I end up speaking over you, but just a few quick questions.
Yep.
A couple of people were saying, can outsourcers use Crowdforce, BounceBreaker? Absolutely they can. In fact, in Crowdforce, and we showed this last week, there's a special place that you can set up your workers, so that's pretty cool. BounceBreaker, yeah, you can give them your access details to that, so they can go into your BounceBreaker account and they can make changes there. Totally, you can do that.
Yep.
Another thing that we should have mentioned, Odesk changed their name to Upwork.
Yeah, that's right.
I
forgot.
Someone else made a comment saying another excellent book is called Work the System. I haven't read that one. So.
No, I haven't read that one either.
And how much could I... Sorry, what?
Just Joanne brought up, and it's a good point. IRS has qualifications to whether someone is in a contract or an employee position, and it can cause problems. It's true. You probably won't have an issue being a small company. I wouldn't worry too much about it. However, if the person is outside the U.S., there's really not an issue. So I wouldn't worry too much about that either.
Peter is saying, do you outsource access to, say, Seller Central?
Yeah.
So overseas people, Amazon?
Yeah. It's a good, I obviously the implication there is, how do you trust people and how do you, all that kind of stuff. And there is no right or wrong answer. The answer to that question is yes, we do. Our outsourcers have access to pretty much everything up to and including, to be quite honest, a lot of our bank account information, because They do some accounting for us and things like that. Now, obviously, that's not something you turn on day one. You have to build up trust. There are levels of security, and I am not an expert on that, but I do know that in Seller Central, there are levels of security that you can grant to people to do certain things. So you're going to have to err on the side of being more cautious at first, and that may slow you down and be a little bit of a bottleneck. But over time, you will be able to give more trust and that kind of thing. I mean, again, our outsourcers have access to our PayPal account or a lot of our banking information, things like that. So, but only after a couple of years of work.
April has a really good question. She says, at this early stage of my 100K factory business, should we be outsourcing all our postings, as in postings to the website?
Yeah.
It sounds like it, but how would I organize that? Do I just hire someone to find posts for me? Or what would this baby stage of outsourcing look like? Do you want to take that, Steve?
Yeah. I certainly want you to be able to make enough money to pay for that first, right? So I'm not suggesting that people start their business and then go negative from outsourcing. I think that you owe it to yourself and to your business to start to bring in a steady income. Now, what is that income? That's not very easy to quantify. But my feeling is if you're bringing in a couple $3,000 a month or so in profit, then you're probably ready to outsource. But if you're not, then I would say you wouldn't be. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. There's the obvious financial reason, but there's also the reason that, you really don't want to outsource stuff that you haven't tried doing yourself and really understand yourself. Because if you don't understand it, then you can't build SOPs around it. And you can't sort of build things where you can manage expectations of what it'll take to do it. So I think it's really important to be able to do it yourself first. As you grow bigger, sort of exponentially, then you're not the one who has to do that, but you could have other outsourcers who understand what they're doing, who could build those SOPs and do the training. But in the first, in the beginning, early days, that's my recommendation.
The one thing that I would add to that is that if you have become an expert about creating posts for your website, for example, like let's say you've already added 20 posts to your website, you know how to do it, and you're quite comfortable teaching someone else how to do it, then, and if you work a full-time job and you're really pressed for time, then you could have someone, it wouldn't cost that much, to actually create the posts for you, but you may not want to have them running the ads and all that stuff, but you could at least get them, or even maybe not even creating the post, but making a list for you of 20 ideas for posts or something like that, just to free up some more of your time, because I know that a lot of people work 40, 50 hours a week, and they've got family and stuff to go back to as well each night, so it's not that easy to get a lot of stuff done. So that might be one kind of halfway step between what Steve said, when you're making $2,000 or $3,000 a month. You might be able to start outsourcing before then, but you'd want to start on something that's just going to free up some of your time without being mission critical type stuff.
Yeah, that seems good. All right, let's see. Any other questions on outsourcing?
I think we're good for now. We've summed up most of them. If any come up, I'll just write them down.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention, kind of, since this is our last, scheduled webinar anyway, where do we go from here? First of all, I just want to say a big, and congratulations to everybody. I mean, you should really pat yourself on the back for participating and sticking to this and doing something, which is, being here and learning and talking to us and trying things out. And no matter how much you've done or haven't done, it's still important, and we're glad you're here, and we are still here. So even if we're not going to have these regular scheduled webinars, you're going to hear from us. We've got other things planned. We're still here. We're still supporting everything. We're not going off and doing something else. We'll still be adding value and tools and fun things. What you should be doing is working the plan. And I don't care where you are. If you haven't even started yet, because you're on vacation the whole summer or something, it's fine. Give yourself a break. Don't go, well, I haven't started yet, so forget it. I'm not going to do it. Just do something. Participate. Do something. Okay? And ask for help. I mean, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. And we have more things to say and all that kind of good stuff. I don't know, Aiden, if you've got anything else to add to that, but that's the big thing I wanted to get.
No, just yeah. I mean, I think you just summed it up. I mean, as you said, we're not going anywhere. If this is your first time having gone through a course with us, then you may be used to people just sort of ditching you and moving on. But that's not how we roll. And if you've been with us in courses in the past, then hopefully you'll already know that. So we've got just lots of people writing nice stuff in the comment box, so that's really nice to see. If you do have any sort of testimonial or anything like that you want to send to us, I mean, we really do appreciate getting those. You can send it to any of our support email addresses, and we would truly love to get anything like that. So yeah, I think you just nailed all the things that I wanted to mention there, and we also mentioned them in that email that we sent out the other day as well, Steve. So hopefully everyone is aware of that. And you know where to find us. So
I like what Peg wrote. Peg wrote, when we get stuck, we ask WWAD or WWSD, which I assume is what would Aiden do and what would Steve do. It really helps. And a big thanks to you guys. That's kind of funny. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, we're getting a lot of really thank you so much for all of the nice feedback, guys. Really appreciate that. It means a lot to us, and we know you've worked hard, and we've worked hard, and yeah, it's all good stuff. And like I said, we're not going anywhere.
Brandon says, thanks for everything. I'm making $10 to $20 a day right now. Just trying to find time to do more posts. That's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. Great. Well, good. Well, I am done for now. I think we're...
I'm just seeing if we've got any questions.
Yeah. Just a couple things that we're saying.
I'm not seeing...
Just a couple people who are saying, who are just reinforcing what we said about, they're behind due to family issues or, health issues or whatever, and they're, very happy to hear that they can just start now. And you can start today and just work the program. You can start today, and it's fine. That's one of the things I really love about this course.
Yeah, I had an email actually today, Steve. Someone had sent us an email and they just said, "Is it okay if I get started right now? I know the live training section is kind of finishing." I said, "Yeah, of course."
Yeah, right.
Totally.
Exactly. Yeah, I wish people.
Nothing has dramatically changed since we started. So, and if there were any dramatic changes,
right. We'll raise the red flag. We'll tell you. So don't worry. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for everything. And like I said, this is not goodbye. It's just stopping of the regularly scheduled programs. But we will be back. Believe me. And we'll communicate through email and things like that. So.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks so much again, guys, for hanging out with us, not just tonight, but throughout the whole training up until now. And as Steve said, this is not goodbye. This is just the end of the live planned training. So we will be in touch. Keep an eye out on your email inbox for emails from us about 100K Factory, about all the other stuff we've got going on. And as always, we'll keep in touch and we'll talk soon.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.